Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Mr. Honey here for Day 9 Sports Nutrition, and today we are talking about food safety, foodborne illnesses, because this is the another major factor of what we've got going on in the kitchen in the lab. So what we got going on today is you guys have a set of notes available, and there's just a small assignment to do afterwards. So let's jump right into it. Food safety. So certain chemicals and organisms in the environment are contaminants, and they can actually be passed into food, which makes it unsafe for human consumption. So there are many steps that we're going to be taking in the lab to make sure that these foods that you guys consume when you prepare them will not harm you. So one of the first questions you want to ask is, what is a foodborne illness? So foodborne illness is sickness that is caused by eating food that contains a harmful substance. All right, so bacteria, contaminants, anything like that. So some of the major symptoms of foodborne illness are fever, headache, and digestive troubles. If you guys have ever had any sort of food poisoning, you know exactly what this is like. So foodborne illnesses can be traced to microorganisms, living creatures that are visible only through a microscope. So we can't actually see these things, but they can cause great harm to our bodies. How do we combat foodborne illnesses? With food safety and making sure that we're handling this stuff properly. So food safety means keeping food safe to eat by following proper handling and cooking practices. So some of these practices include: keep yourself and the kitchen clean. I know during this time you guys are probably washing your hands and disinfecting a lot more than normal. So good thing to continue even after all this is over. Don't cross-contaminate, which we'll be talking about briefly. Cook food thoroughly and then refrigerate food immediately. All right. So those are just 4 basic practices, and we'll elaborate on those a little bit. So first off, personal hygiene is very, very important. By practicing personal hygiene, you keep yourself clean to avoid transferring harmful bacteria when handling food. So you want to make sure that you wash your hands for 20 seconds with warm water. Okay, 20 seconds with warm water. You guys can probably think of your favorite song, and then when you think about it, think about how long the chorus of that song is. Maybe sing that chorus twice, and that would equal 20 seconds. I know here we actually have listed in this is like sing the alphabet song or the birthday song while washing your hands. But you guys can pick any song that you want as long as it goes for 20 seconds. So not only do you need to be clean and keep your hygiene in check, but also make sure the kitchen is clean as well, because a clean cooked is backed by a clean kitchen. So you want to make sure to follow these guidelines. You want to keep the pets out of the kitchen because pet hairs float through the air and carry bacteria with them. And you also want to make sure that you're washing any work surfaces where you are preparing food, and then make sure that you're washing the utensils in hot, sudsy water before you prepare the food. Then also make sure that you're changing dish towels often. We reiterated that in the last video. And then if you use a spoon to taste food, do not put the spoon back in the food of which you tasted, okay? That's just asking to spread germs. A big buzzword in the world of food preparation is cross-contamination. So what is it? Well, first off, it's something we should not do. And cross-contamination basically occurs when harmful bacteria spread from one food to another. So it can occur in food or uncooked foods. And basically what happens is, it's like if you have bacteria that can exist on one food, and then you get done with that food, prepare it, blah, 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 and then instead of wiping down or whatnot, you bring out another food, and the bacteria from that previous food gets on the new food, and it doesn't go through the same process of cleanliness and things like that. So just some ideas about how we can prevent cross-contamination. Don't let meat drip onto other foods in your grocery cart, so you want to make sure that you keep the meat separate. And then when you prepare raw meat, poultry, seafood, wash every surface that the food touches with hot soapy water before and after preparation. So if you're slicing and dicing meat or whatnot, and then once you're done, you throw it in the pot, the pan, and then it starts cooking, make sure to wash the surface, hot sudsy water, after you get done with it, all right, before you prepare any other food. All right, another way to help prevent foodborne illnesses is to cook food thoroughly. Some foods can cook very unevenly in a microwave, so when reheating food that has been refrigerated, make sure that you're bringing it to an internal temperature of 165 degrees. The reason we really focus on temperature is because the temperature actually affects the growth of bacteria and how all this stuff can thrive. So internal temperature is important because this is the temperature that is high enough to kill bacteria, and this is at 160 degrees. So you want to make sure that a food, that whatever you're cooking, reaches that internal temperature of 165 degrees, so all that bacteria dies. Also, make sure that you follow the guidelines that are listed below when cooking meat. Only taste meats when they are fully cooked. Make sure that you're going through and using your senses to kind of see if it looks like it's cooked, if it feels like it's cooked. Use those senses before you start using the sense of taste, because you want to make sure that you don't get sick by possibly tasting meat that's not completely cooked. So before you get around to tasting it, make sure that it is fully cooked, and never partially cook food and then wait to finish cooking the rest later. So if you're going to cook something, make sure that you go and cook it all at one point. So don't partially cook it and then just kind of let it sit, then crank up the heat again and then think you're going to cook the rest later. You want to make sure that you cook it all at one time. Now, the next thing to consider is properly storing your food. Now, when storing your food, you do need to understand what above freezing and room temperature are. So room temperature is considered 85 degrees. All right, so room temperature. So if they say store food at room temperature, you want to make sure that it's in an area that's around 85 degrees. And then also above freezing is 32 degrees. So the temperature inside of your refrigerator should be below 40 degrees overall. And also freezer storage should be 0 degrees and lower. So keep in mind, refrigerator, just make sure that it's really nice and cold, 40 degrees and below. However, if you are storing food in a freezer, you want to make sure that your freezer is actually 0 degrees or lower. And then finally, you also need to pay attention to recall. It's very important that you guys understand the importance of following recall, because it will limit your risk of possibly consuming foods that may be contaminated, that have already been put on shelves or that you may have already bought. The big thing to know is that the Food and Drug Administration actually sets the guidelines and laws for these food companies. So what exactly is a recall? Well, this is where the companies will actually reach out to markets and things of which they've done business with and have their food in their store shelves, and they will basically call for the immediate removal of a product from store shelves because maybe it's contaminated and they want to make sure that people are not buying it and then consuming it and getting sick. And one of the big things that a lot of people do not know about recalls is that if a company does not voluntarily recall certain items that they have found to be contaminated, the FDA will come after them with legal action. So it's one of those things where it's just better safe than sorry. If you know food's on recall, do not consume it. Do not buy it. If you've already bought it, get rid of it. And then also, if you ever get into the business of working with a company or start your own company and, you need to issue out a recall, make sure that you do have that recall so that way you don't have legal action taken against you by the FDA. But this is going to conclude our notes for today, and you have a very easy assignment for today. So for your assignment, you can do this in black and white, pencil, however you want to go with it. So you guys are going to do a little foodborne illness flyer. So what you're going to do is you're going to select a foodborne illness, and I'll discuss what they are in a second. You are going to create a one-page flyer to advertise your foodborne illness of what you choose. And you're going to include what causes the foodborne illness, the food sources it is found in, and then the precautions or how the foodborne illness can be prevented. So the things that you can do to make sure that you don't get this foodborne illness. And then provide a picture of either the food it's found in or a microscopic photo of like the bacteria or whatever the foodborne illness is. So a microscopic photo. So the illnesses that you can choose from. So you just pick one and you do your flyer based off it. Campylobacter, E. coli, Salmonella, Cyclospora, depends on how you want to say it, Listeria, Norovirus, or Vibrio cholera. So you can pick one of these foodborne illnesses, make your little flyer. Like I said, I'm cool with it being black and white. It doesn't have to be overly elaborate. I'm also cool with you doing this Word document processed as well. But that's pretty much what you guys are going to be doing for your assignment today. So go ahead and get that stuff submitted. Hopefully I'll be back in the studio when spring break is over, so that way I can provide fun backgrounds, because I think this is not working out for anyone at this moment. But that is all I got for today. You guys have a good rest of the day, and I will see you soon.